What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? I'm finally getting around to the last role tier list. We've done mid, jungle, solo, ADC. It's now time for the support tier list. Round out these 5, and then in a few days we'll just do an overall tier list for all the updated stuff with the patch coming out Tuesday. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's knock this shit out. Let's see what we can do. So I've pretty much placed all the gods I believe should potentially be taken into the support role. I don't think I've missed anything, but none of these other gods I recommend or would like to have in the support position. I would not want you in my game playing any of these other gods in support. So that's where we're at. We're going to start off with Aphrodite. It's going to be a B+ tier. You have no pressure. So starting with doing a solo lane like SPL type start where you do 2 in the solo lane, that is never going to be an option with Afro. Starting in the duo lane, you're giving up full pressure. You have sustain, which is awesome, but your clear isn't much better than it's not better than all the top matchups you're going to be playing against. And realistically, you're just trying to get the late game. So you do get the late game. Your team then doesn't have engage, doesn't have true frontline, and is lacking a lot in terms of team comp. So it is not something I recommend. I put it in B+ because sure, you can get away with it if it's like your favorite god to play and it works in the team comp. You're gonna play it, and that's about the only time I think you should play it. Aries, B tier. Situational as hell, like extremely situational. You are pulling out Aries if somehow they don't have pressure and they also have a ton of dashes or leaps or things you can kind of screw them over with, while also not having CC immune ults. So that's like 3 very key stats that almost every god has that would have to come into play and work perfectly for Aries. It's so rare and it's just not going to be common. That's why he's going to be down in B tier. RDO A+. You've got a high pressure support in ranked and casuals. This is going to be a super important point or goal to have in your support role. If you are the ones aggressing, if you have the more aggressive, higher damage, higher in your face support gods, you're going to on average do better than the other team. It's just how the game currently works. Even at an SPL level, the god is very strong. I put him in A+ because RDO is going to work in almost every single team comp. I can't speak. Almost every single team comp. You are not going to top pick RDO in terms of like it's not going to be banned and you're not going to need to first pick it. But you do see RDO in the SPL level picked in like the 3rd position, sometimes 2nd, usually 3rd, 4th is when an RDO comes up. Really good with the cripple. Like I said, high pressure, lots of damage, very in your face. Does extremely well for me and from what I've seen in ranked games. I really like having RDO on the aggressive supports. Athena, just your average A tier god, doesn't have crazy clear, has a decent team fight once they have Magi's blessings, or if they have Geb, or just certain gods that are going to really disrupt Athena and keep Athena from taunting and doing what Athena does. Can be kind of rough. The global ult is dope, works well when you're bad at rotating, but if you're playing support and you're bad at rotating right now, you're gonna get fucked no matter what. So I don't really recommend relying on that. But Athena is an okay god. It's just going to be something you pull out because you want to have it engaged and you aren't worried about Magi's blessing. You have Magi's burners, you have Erlang Shen. Say you have a crazy dive comp and you want to be able to Athena ult on top of it. That is something you're looking at when you're picking Athena. Bacchus. A tier. Bacchus came out really strong this year, this split, which is pretty dope, but really quickly fell off when people realized his team fight isn't the best. Once he's in, he's in. He doesn't really have the in your face stuff because like his belch, his stun can be interrupted. It's really hard to get a flop on multiple people unless they're idiots and standing right on top of each other. Bacchus is actually pretty easy to kill just because the self peel, like once the stun's interrupted and once you've leaped, you don't do much else. In terms of ranked, does a lot of damage. If you're able to snowball, it's dope. Casuals, ranked, whatever, competitive. If you're able to snowball, dope, but it's just hard to force a snowball when you don't have a high clear, high aggression god. Baron, kind of similar to Aphrodite. No real reason to play it all the time. If the situation comes up and it's your favorite god to play, I understand it. If you need magical, you want to have more magical damage, or say you only have 1 mage on your team, it's the only magical damage is 1 mage, and you want to be able to put up auras or spear or just something, there's some specific reason it comes up, sure. I'd say I'm not putting it down in B. So for me, B plus is going to be very similar to B, but it's going to be like your god, your go-to, something you really like to play and something you play really well. That's where Baron's going to fall. Like, this needs to be a god you're playing flawlessly, you're positioning flawlessly, but you're also doing the same thing that you do with Afro. No front line. Kind of ruins your team comp. You aren't getting lane pressure. You do have a little bit of sustain, which is dope, but it's not enough. Broken. Similar idea to say an RDO or a high pressure, high aggression, high in your face support, but Kabrakan is an all-in god. It's not going to be self-peeling. It's going to be doing a lot of damage. Definitely going to be running at people, not going to be disengaging. Because of that, you're not going to fall where RDO falls. It's not going to happen. This is going to be another one of those gods where like you play Kabrakan really well and it's what you understand. It's the gods you know, so you're going to play it because the situation comes up where you need a high aggression guardian. Really rare. Not going to fit into a comp or into the meta the same way RDO does. Just for the lack of the kit, for the lack of mobility, for what the god brings to the table. Terrible late game god. Kind of risky to pick. Very risky to pick. Cerberus going to fall into A tier for me. You don't see Cerberus played much at all, but it's just another, if everything's banned, if all the better gods are banned and you just need to fill the comp with something with some guardian damage, you have the protection shred, which is dope. So say you have a lot of magic damage and you want to be able to shred the protections to boost your team a little bit more, then you might be looking at Cerberus, but it has to fit into the team comp. Not necessarily the worst god. He's not going to get stomped. He just doesn't get played because he doesn't do anything special. He's not great. Really hard to get good ults off, especially as a support if you're the one engaging, because people are just going to fucking jump out of it, leap out of it, run out of it, whatever they got to do to get out of it. Very rarely are you getting big Cerberus ults as a support when you're the initial engager. It's just very rough to play, but the god overall with a kit is actually pretty strong, pretty decent in team fights. Not a lot to complain about. Erlang Shen. I am focusing this support tier list way more on casuals and ranked. Yes, it's going to be based on the SPL. A lot of my lists are always based heavily around the SPL, but support is one of those roles where it's a little bit different in ranked and casuals than it is from competitive. Because competitive, you start in the solo lane right now. People are not doing that in casuals and ranked. I played like 10 games yesterday, and I think one game someone tried to do it, and they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So I have to base it around your normal starts or just what you can do out of a normal situation, normal game. Erlang Shen, S tier. Extremely high aggression, sustain out of the ultimate, CC out of the ultimate, CC out of the 2, CC out of the 3. So you have a root, you have a taunt, and you have a knockup. That's insane by itself. On top of that, even with basic bitch support items, you do a lot of damage. Your ability damage is high. Your 3 is just a high base level. You have 3 damaging abilities, one of them being auto attack damage boost. On a support, you're just sitting there whacking people a lot of the time. If you're able to snowball on an Erlang support, the game is over. You control the game because they can't kill you, and you do a fuck ton of damage. It's kind of similar to some of the other. We're gonna go into a couple other gods that are be played and talk about it very similarly the way we do Erlang Shen. I can't speak right now. The god can do work by himself in the support role, and that is rare. A lot of people ask me, how do I get out of gold on sport? How do I get out of platinum? How do I get out of silver? Or whatever, wherever you are in sport. Play carry supports. You don't literally build carry and play carry. You don't go an assassin build. You go a support type build, hybrid. You get like you rush like Blackthorn Hammer, so you have a little bit of damage, but also have the health, have the CDR at the start. Then you go a lot tankier the farther in you go. That's because you're able to carry with that. You're able to do enough damage that your team being bad isn't as noticeable. They don't need to hit all 4 of their abilities. They need to hit 3 of them because you're doing the rest of the damage. Whereas if you're playing Geb, you're not doing that same damage. And gods like this right now are going to be your ticket out of fucking whatever rank you're stuck in if you're a support main. Just so that's understood. Fafnir, A+, amazing god. You're mainly looking at focusing like a Fafnir pick when you have double auto attack gods. You pick a Kronos and an AMC, you pick an Erlang Shen, and you have a good hunter. When you have gods that can shred objectives and auto attack, that's where Fafnir really excels. Okay in other comps, not bad, but really excels in those comps. Fenrir, putting him in A, one of those aggressive type supports you'd be playing. A little bit less so than Erlang Shen and like 3 of the other ones we're going to go into, but can do the same similar thing, can be really aggressive, can do lots of damage. Just a little more one-dimensional in that, yeah, you have 2 CCs, you have a stun, and you have your ult, but your ult a little awkward because your ultimate essentially takes you out of the fight. You grab someone up, you do that 300 damage or whatever, and then you're just standing there, like literally doing nothing. So if you're trying to be the one carrying games, it's really hard when you are the full CC bot as well. You stun, you ult, you hope your team kills them. Not gonna work quite the same as our Shen. Ganesh, A tier, gets a lot of shit. It gets a lot of shit, but the ultimate is pretty fucking annoying in team fights. The silence is insanely annoying. You have a knock up and you've got the 1, which is gonna give you damage. It's gonna give you, I think the 1's protections, right? I don't even know. The 1 might be bonus damage, the 2 might be protections, but you like buff your team essentially. If you go read the god's abilities, I don't pay enough attention to it because I fucking hate Ganesh. Literally the god I hate the most in the game. You actually do help your team around you, and because of that, the god kind of goes under the radar. People don't recognize how much they're actually doing in a team fight because it's not them, like there aren't hard numbers right there in their face at the exact moment to see it, whereas behind the scenes there are hard numbers. You're giving more protections, you're giving more damage, you are CCing, and you're doing a lot in these team fights. I actually like Ganesh a lot in terms of what he can do as support role. Don't like playing him, fucking hate it. Geb, I love Geb. Aside from being extremely low pressure, I think Geb is the best team fight god in the game. Period. Knock up, AoE, stun, CC, a shield that saves people, a fucking slow, all while doing damage on 3 of those 4 abilities. I like Geb a lot. I think the shield is actually broken. I think it's one of the best abilities in the game. Granted, you have to get out of the early game with this, and this is not be something you're carrying on, but in team fight wise, and if you're playing with decent teammates, this is going to be a solid god for you to play in sport, especially if you aren't really good at positioning and don't really know what you're doing. Because all you have to do is fucking sit around your carries, knock some people up, CC them, shield your carries. You did your job. Guan Yu, don't play this. Don't do this to your team, to your friends, to your buddies, to your most hated enemy. Don't do this. No. Please. Your 3 is going to get interrupted. You're not going to have clear. Your heal is going to do nothing because everyone builds anti-heal. Don't fucking do this, please. Thank you. Hercules, right there with Shen. A little bit more skill intensive, I guess would be the way. A little bit more difficult than Shen. Shen, you run at people, really hard to miss your abilities. Hercules, people fucking struggle sometimes to hit abilities on them. It's not actually hard, but if you don't want to play Hercules, probably don't do it. Assuming you know the basic gameplay of Hercules, the god is ridiculous. You can one-shot any squishy, mage, hunter, assassin from like levels 1 to 12, as long, and especially if you don't fall behind, you'll be one-shotting them even longer. But you can actually stun somebody and ult them, and you will one-shot them. Your boulder does a lot of damage at level 5. Your 1 does a lot of base damage. Hercules is an insanely annoying god to play against. It is very scary. If you're hitting your 2s, you're gonna win games. Play Hercules, practice this motherfucker, and then just run at people, solo people, and realize how good the god actually is. Like I said, this gets played a lot in comp, so this is a little bit different, but in ranked comp and casuals, Hercules is an insane fucking support right now. It is insanely hard to play into. I can't talk about it enough. If I'm an assassin and that Hercules is running at me, I'm scared. Even if he's 2 levels down, I'm actually fucking scared. It's annoying. Horace, I think Horace is insane. I think Horace is one of the best supports in the game right now. Essentially unkillable unless you waste your abilities, because you've got 2 dashes and a knockup. You have an ultimate that's CC immune. The ultimate might be the most underrated ability in his kit. A lot of the top players will talk about it and hype it up a lot because it's fucking insane. So if you've seen the clips, you can use Horace ult to take your team and some minions with you from one lane to the other and kill a Phoenix instantly, which is insane by itself. A little bit more difficult. But aside from that, you have an engage on a support. You don't even need to take anyone with you. If you land on somebody and knock them up while your team's engaging, it's very, very hard to play around because a lot of people don't recognize that it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does do the knockup. It's very annoying. Top of that, it's an escape mechanic. And I think that is the real underrated part of the ability. I can't tell you how many times you go into a fight, you kill somebody, and then you're probably going to die, and a Horace can nope out right away. You don't even need to go that far. You need to go over a wall, take your team over the wall, and boom, you're out. It's ridiculous. The ultimate is very, very strong. Jorm played similarly to Erlang Shen and Hercules. Very, very aggressive, but out of the Guardian role. You, like I said, you run at people, you be annoying, you do lots of damage. You don't have peel, so in team fights, you aren't going to be that insane. Your ultimate is not your traditional support ultimate because you're not even in the game aside from doing damage and knocking people around, which is good, but it's just played a little bit differently, but under the same premise as Hercules and Erlang Shen are, where you're just a very aggressive, high damage god that people can't deal with. Khepri, A tier. The clear is there. It's not great, but it's there, especially over a lot of these other gods in A tier. His team fight's a little bit weaker. You have the ultimate to reset, which is really, really good when used correctly, but a lot of people just don't understand Khepri. Even in team fights, the idea that you have to trust your teammate to do something and you need to also be in range of that person, say without comms, and you're not going to be typing in the middle of a fight. It's going to be a little bit harder to play. And like I said, while the ultimate is pretty good in team fights, it's not going to win you a team fight. Like, it's saving someone's life right before they die and they come back in with low health. Like, it's not actually going to be the reason you win a team fight. Whereas a good Athena taunt could be. If Cerberus gets an ult off, it could be. If Fenrir ults the support and you're able to burn the support, it could be. Khepri just falls into a little bit different of an area because it's a hardcore peel god rather than an engage, which is also another harder thing to play as in ranked and casuals because your team is going to expect you to be running at them. Khepri doesn't just run at people. Kumba, I love Kumba right now, man. Kumba runs at people. Kumba's passive makes him so he doesn't die. His mez makes him so he doesn't die. He's got the root. He's got the 1 damage. He has an ult that does insane damage. It's a ridiculous amount of setup, a ridiculous amount of CC, and you can't look past, like, it's kind of like Geb, but the aggressive version. Whereas Geb is going to save your teammate's life. Kumba is just going to set your whole fucking team up the whole time. There's going to be nothing the other team can do about it. This is an amazing god right now. Definitely put some time into Kumba if you haven't been. Kuzimbo, B+ tier. If they have a ton of auto attack damage, maybe there's value if it's your favorite god, but even then there's better options. Like, no matter what, even in the perfect team comp, Kuzimbo will work and not be a bad option, but these will be better. Nadja, similar to our Erlang Shen and our Hercules, high aggressive hybrid initial build, run at people, be annoying, played similar to your Hercules, whereas you have a high damaging ult, you have a decent amount of CC, you have a stun, you have a slow, you have the protection shred, the ultimate to take somebody out of the fight if you need to. Nadja ultimate as a support is used differently though. You don't combo off of that after like 12 minutes because usually it's pretty pointless. What you're looking to do as a Nadja is use your whole kit and then take somebody out of the fight that might be annoying. A fucking solo laner, someone that your team probably wouldn't kill but would be very annoying, so your team can ignore that person, they're not in the team fight, and they can go win the team fight after you've already used your kit on the rest of the people. So you would stun a squishy, you would ring bounce a squishy and someone else, and then you would take that third person out of the fight. Works amazingly right now in casuals and ranked. Nox, B tier. If the team comp is perfect for it, if they don't have high clear and you also are going to be able to get a lot out of the lockdown, and your team maybe needs a spear because there's no other mages and you don't have a spear mage, that's where Nox is going to come into play. Not very common by itself. Odin. Don't play it even more than don't play Guan. There's no value out of Odin right now. Easily worst ult, or not easily the worst, easily like top 5 worst ults in the game. There is no value in Conquest with Odin. There's nothing. There's an active that counters him. Most gods can just straight up counter him. Doesn't do a lot of damage. Doesn't have a lot of CC. Is not aggressive enough. There's just no value. There's no positive value out of picking at Odin right now. Surkhet. Very similar to Nadja. Very similar to Shen. Very similar to Hercules. Run at people. Combo them. Surkhet's a little bit safer though because you can you usually go blink on these gods. Like if you play Hercules, you have to have blink. If you play Surkhet, you have to have blink. Just so that's understood. If you're playing the support role, you would blink in, combo somebody. Either you kill them, or if you don't kill them, they turn on you. You jump out. You've got a lot of mobility. You have a CC immune ult. You have an annoying ult. You have high base damage. You have percentage damage out of your passive. You have true damage out of the ults. Lots of mobility, a decent amount of CC, not a crazy amount, but a decent amount. But as I said, the aggression, the ability to by yourself solo people, run at people, very, very important. Surkhet has that for casuals and ranked. Sobek. I want to say A tier, but Sobek's clear and just presence in team fights as a support is so bad that there's no value. You aren't going to win a lane. You aren't going to be aggressive. Sure, you're going to have a little bit of peel with the pluck and the knockback and then an annoying slow. But why would you play this over any other god? I can't really see it, aside from you needing just peel. You don't care about winning lanes, you don't care about anything, you just want peel, which never fucking happens. Sylvanas, A tier, much more aggressive version of like a Geb, essentially. A more in your face version of Geb, but not gonna have the same amount of peel. Gonna have about the same amount of damage, maybe a little bit more. You need to be able to hit your pulls to really get full value out of Sylvanas. And I mean raw, I mean straight, like you need to hit raw pulls, not their CC and I'm gonna pull him, like this guy's around this wall, snag, insta kill him type shit, which is a little bit more difficult. Whereas usually I'd say mechanics, you should know how to play the mechanics. Like that's something that's not easy to do. Can't play Sylvanas higher because you're not actually winning every lane. You're not able to run at every team comp. You're not going to have the peel you need if you're being ran at. It's just very middle of the pack god right now. Terra, I love Terra. Love Terra right now. The ultimate wins you fights even as a support. You don't even need like crazy hybrid items. You go one damage item, maybe late game, and Terra ult will win you fights, just diving people. You can't play around it. Like Terra blinks on you and you ult, and then the rest of the Terra's team follows up. You try to fight back, but you're automatically at a losing fight because the ultimate is insane. Shing 10, B tier, low pressure. If they have a lot of auto attack gods and you want to try to counter that with the Shing 10 1, then go for it. But that's about the only reason you're pulling out Shing 10. And then Ymir, B plus. If you're looking for run at you type support, essentially, you're looking at full aggression, no peel. I'm gonna run at you, and then I look at Ymir, the only way I put it at B plus, because you need to be a really good Ymir player. Your walls have to be perfect and the team comp has to fall in line, whereas the other team needs to not have leaps and not ways out of your wall. If you can if there's 2 or 3 gods on their team that you can lock in with walls because they don't have leaps, great pick. Not bad, but that's super rare. Not going to have that happening a lot, and you need to be positioning really well with your walls, with your combos, and Ymir's just not going to do anything outside of that situation. I'd put him in B, but at least in these situations, there's true reasoning for it. In these situations, you're pulling out the Ymir because that comes up and you love Ymir, not because it's the greatest pick right here. That is not the only reason why. So, support tier list, knocked out. You notice no S+. There's nothing that has to be top picked because why would you? There's something that can play in everything. You have these two are where I put an S. You could argue that you put Surkhet up there, Terra up there, Nadja up there, the other aggressive gods. But you can play around these gods with more aggression. It's just very, very difficult, not impossible. That's simple. That's it. Hopefully you guys like the tier list. Hopefully you guys aren't complaining that Cupid isn't in the support tier list, because fuck you, I don't care. That's where we're at. I'll see you all in the video later tonight.